Dzień dobry Państwu. Miło mi
Good morning to all of you.
spotkać się z Państwem.
It's great to be with you here today.
English speaker, please switch to the English version using the globe icon on the bottom bar. So our meeting is translated. Okay. Zakładam, że wszyscy to wykonali. Dzień dobry Państwu jeszcze raz.
I assume everyone knows what to do. Good morning. Once again, my name is Łukasz Sławik, and I'm head of Teledetection Department of MGGP Aero. I'm also a manager of the LIFE project. We are the host of today's meeting.
Sprawy organizacyjne na samym początku.
A few housekeeping rules for the beginning.
To webinarium jest nagrywane.
This webinar is being recorded.
I
also wish to tell you that it's possible to ask questions to the speakers. Do it in the Q&A panel in the bottom bar. During the webinar, you also have an opportunity to ask questions in the chat window. We'll try to answer them as they go. So far, for organizational matters, the first stage of our meeting will comprise of 4 speeches. One segment will be with a speech, then we are going to engage in a short discussion, and later on we are going to go through other presentations describing the project. There will be also an opportunity to ask questions concerning the presentation.
Tyle ze wstępu organizacyjnego.
That's for organization.
W pierwszej części wystąpi pani Maria Andrzejewska, dyrektor
In the first segment, we'll hear a presentation by Maria Andrzejewska, Director General of UNEP GRID-Warszawa, Katarzyna Szymczak-Pomianowska, Director of the Department for Sustainable Development in the Municipality of Wrocław, as well as Dave Barlow from Manchester, expert in green infrastructure policies, as well as biodiversity.
Chciałem zaprosić Państwa na te wystąpienia.
Right now, I would like to invite you to listen to the speeches. I forgot to introduce myself. Excuse me, my speech is going to open this session, so you are welcome to listen to me.
Ja będę chciał powiedzieć Państwu, dlaczego spotykamy się i będziemy rozmawiać o projekcie
I'm going
LIFE.
to tell you about the reasons for our meeting and why we have decided to launch the project LIFE. What is it about and what's the vision of the entire activity?
Jest skierowany do miast, tak więc będziemy dzisiaj
This is a project directed to municipalities. So today we are going to talk about municipalities, their problems and challenges stemming from adaptation to climate change. We're also going to concentrate on the method, which is nature-based solutions. As I've already said, the organizer of the event is LIFECOOLCITY Project. This initiative is part of the LIFE program, Climate Change Mitigation Adaptation from 2023. The consortium implementing the project is MGGP Aero, who is the leader of the project, represented by myself, as well as the municipality of Wrocław, which is a demonstration city. We are joined by our substantive partners, the University of Łódź, UNEP GRID-Warszawa, Warsaw University, as well as Zika, a company from Germany.
Projekt LIFECOOLCITY jest finansowany ze środków.
LIFECOOLCITY Project is co-financed by the funds of the European Commission as well as the National Fund for Environmental Protection. As a project, LIFE is also a close-to-market project type. This means that what we develop in the project will be implemented in the market, which is essential from the perspective of the content we are going to share with you.
Tak naprawdę projekt odpowiada na potrzeby.
As far as the market goes, the project responds to the needs defined by the European Commission in its directives green policies, adaptation to climate change, and many other strategic documents who set the way for transformation. When it comes to the target group, we target the project to cities who are main client. We also concentrate on cooperating with a large pool of shareholders who are policymakers, municipalities, scientists, and researchers. The project aims to support the project of cities' adaptation to climate change. We wish to help them equip themselves with tools that could help them solve various challenges. In our opinion, it's a very complex task. We need to address a variety of questions: how to safely manage the project, how to manage the infrastructure, and what methods to implement. Nothing is obvious here. According to data we have collected from 150 cities in Poland, it emerges that the implementation of nature-based solutions is only the third of methods of counteracting climate change, right after energy transition and mobility. Another critically important thing, as we learned yesterday, is something that happened within the European Union, which is the nature restoration law that was adopted recently. This will require of the city to achieve its goals in the perspectives for 2030, 2035, and 2040. There are the tasks that lie ahead of you, municipalities. We wish to assist you in this process and provide you with the tools that will allow you to meet these goals in the best way possible, way that was most responsible. Frankly speaking, we wish to help you answer the question of where to plant a tree in order to make it a best possible investment. It's not about implementing NBS in any way imaginable. We wish to do it in a smart way. The foundations of the project and how innovative it is going to be the subject of the second speech of the presentation of the conference. So I'm going to stop here with my introduction, and I wish to give the floor to Maria Andrzejewska of UNEP GRID-Warszawa. Maria Andrzejewska will tell you in a few words why the LIFE project is so important from the perspective of municipalities whenever we're talking about climate change. Good morning to all of you. My name is Maria Andrzejewska. From our perspective, as an organization specializing in the UN agenda for environment, we believe this is a hugely important project. This is because at the moment we are dealing with a trifold climate or a civilizational challenge. This challenge comprises of three basic elements. These are climate change, the loss of biodiversity, as well as all kinds of pollution. Among them, pollution resulting from industry as well as transport. The role of natural habitats is indispensable in counteracting this change. Municipal systems have a vital role to play. It's not only due to the value in the context of adaptation to climate change. Equally important is the role of mitigating different challenges. It's also due to the fact that they promote the well-being of humans. They also play other important roles that are not a matter of our discussion. Nonetheless, they are critical from the perspective of how important nature is in the municipality. The role of natural ecosystems is critically important whenever we talk about adaptation to climate change. Here we can talk about water retention.
Umożliwiania lepszemu reagowaniu na te gwałtowne zjawiska pogodowe, z którymi zaczynamy się coraz
it's also
częściej
important in counteracting
w kontekście
those serious or severe water phenomena. It's also critical in CO2 capture as well as air purification. Natural ecosystems provide a host of ecosystem services. These services can be measured. They are quantitative. We know that groups of trees, well-developed and healthy trees, play another important role in economy.
Która pozwoli na lepsze poznanie zasobu przyrodniczego w obszarze miasta.
A database allowing us to better understand an ecosystem within the city is important from the perspective of appropriate management. It's also important from the perspective of evaluating its potential and value. Because whenever we talk to our residents, we can highlight the importance of these resources. The responsibilities within the LIFECOOLCITY are equally important from the perspective of the UN Environment Programme. At the moment, we are developing an early warning for environment platform. This is due to the fact that UN defines natural resources as critical in terms of their role in counteracting a triple planetary challenge. We are very happy to be your partner in the project. We hope that whatever we achieve within the project will be used to strengthen both Polish and European municipalities. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opinion. I would now like to give the floor to the Director of the Department of Sustainable Development in Wrocław. Wrocław is a city without whom this project would have never happened.
Jednym z celi jest wdrożenie rezultatów.
This is because one of the aims of the project is to implement the results of our research. Wrocław decided to take up the challenge and to become our laboratory. Ms. Katarzyna, please tell us, why did Wrocław decide to join the project? Good morning, everybody. Wrocław has always been in the avant-garde. Therefore, we are very happy to be with you today. We are happy to be testing solutions that are to be developed within the project. We are all aware of what we are facing as Polish citizens, as the citizens of Europe. We experience climate change in our daily life. We understand how hard the pressure of humans on nature is. We know how urban development is difficult for nature. We know how biologically active areas are important. This all affects our life, our comfort of living in a city. The role of people who create sustainable urban policies and processes implemented within cities is to balance these measures. Our role is to make sure that our city is the best possible for our citizens. We need to promote the comfort of living, which is why we have decided to join you in the project. Wrocław has certain experience, quite a lot of experience in this field. One of game changers was our participation in the Grow Green project. Based on NBS solutions, we designed pocket parks in tenements plots in the old town district. It was our goal to better manage rainwater to introduce biodiversity, to improve quality. Our substantive partner was the Nature University, who is at the moment monitoring the project. Based on our experience in 2022 within the Making Cities Resilience project, we became one of the 14 hubs of NBS, one of our we are the first hub in Europe. We are very happy to be able to share this experience. We want to network with our entities working in the field. We wish to further develop and use the benefit of knowledge. We have implemented Polish NBS hub in Wrocław. We collect and share knowledge about ABS. We closely cooperate with the scientific and academic community to further expand the influence. And as I've said already, we wish to act in a goal-oriented way and to wisely affect the green and urban surface. We wish to have at our disposal well-developed and advanced technologies that will allow us to monitor the state of tall greenery in the city. We wish to protect our greenery and the nature potential of our cities. We wish to better design and develop it. But what is important in a goal-oriented way to develop green infrastructure within the city, bearing in mind the limiting of available space, hardened space that is not always accessible, as well as stringent budgets and limited resources. Given all that, we cannot act as we will. We need to prioritize our efforts and we need to divert our resources where they can best work to decrease the temperatures within cities and act to the benefit of the quality of life of our citizens. Behind me, in the background, you can see the new market square in Wrocław. It's been a symbol. It received various awards for a modernist space, but it was unlivable. We wanted to unseal this area. That was the postulate of our community. At the moment, it's transforming into a green island within the city, accessible to residents, cool and relaxing for citizens.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask about the picture. Is it a real picture or is it a visualization? Well, it's been updated. Every week there are more and more plants, more and more trees. Soon we will be opening the first stage, and in about a month we're going to start the second stage. So please visit Wrocław and have a walk here. Yes, I've seen it live and it is impressive indeed. Okay, what Katarzyna said, and I've noted it down, is knowledge and experience. These two elements are very important in the entire process. So we need to collect knowledge, experience, we need to process these, and we need to implement these in further stages and our experiences. And this is very important, an important element of the entire project. As a team, we are open towards listening to others. We want to listen to cities, we want to learn about their experiences, because we want cities, mainly Wrocław in this case, but we want other city stakeholders, we want other city partners to have a real tangible impact on our final tool that we're going to develop in this project, so that it is a tailor-made tool that is adjusted to these various needs. So this is really important. We need to be open to experiences of others. We need to listen. And that's why I would like to give the floor to Dave Barlow, who is going to talk about his experiences in the last 40 years. He works in Manchester and he focuses on issues related to environmental planning, on NBS implementations, and we want him to talk about this journey from his perspective. So Dave, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Luca. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can somebody say yes?
Yes, we can hear you, Dave. It's all right.
Thank you very
Everything
much.
is fine. Yes.
And can I just say thank you very much, everybody, for inviting us here to speak. It's very exciting to hear what Lucas and Katarzyna have already said, and to be part of this journey that you're on. We're also part of a journey. So sort of like learning and listening to others is incredibly important. So just a little bit of background. My name is Dave Barlow. I work as a senior policy officer in Manchester City Council, part of the City of Manchester, and I help to develop nature strategies for the City of Manchester. And today I want to focus on how we use scientific and spatial data to inform our decision making and ultimately to make our cities greener and more resilient to climate change. So this is our city, the City of Manchester. We sit in the northwest of England as part of the wider Greater Manchester City region, and our population is around 550,000 people. Our population declined post-war, but is growing steadily now and just sits at nearly 600,000 people. In the wider city region, we have approximately 2.7 million people. So that's the Greater Manchester City region made up of 10 municipalities. But our city has just over around 54% green and blue infrastructure. And by green and blue, green spaces are made up of gardens, parks, grass verges, incidental spaces, whereas blue spaces are made up of rivers, canals, lakes and ponds. So around 54% of the city's area is made up of green and blue spaces. Interestingly, tree and woodland cover is around 19%, and that's significantly higher than many cities across the UK. So that's important to have that. So next slide, please. Thank you very much. I think our journey began very much in 2009 when we developed our first climate change action plan. And it was very important, I think, and it's a tip for everybody, is to find a common cause. We found that in 2009, it allowed us to develop a focus around green and blue infrastructure, as Katarzyna said earlier, as critical, or somebody said, as in relation to it being critical infrastructure. It allowed us to put the focus on green and blue in relation to the climate resilience agenda. And in 2019, Manchester declared a climate emergency. In 21, we became the first major English city to sign the Edinburgh Declaration, expressing our concern about global biodiversity loss and leading to new city commitments around biodiversity. In 2020 and 21, we experienced extreme weather events, flooding events, and we were asked by our leaders whether green infrastructure could help with this. And we said, yes, we think it can. So it gave us the opportunity then to delve further into this world. Next slide, please. Thank you. It's important to integrate your strategies and your visions into other city plans and policies where you can. We have something called a policy hierarchy. Integrating green and blue into other agendas such as transport, economy, flood risk management is really important because it allows us to use the value and function of green infrastructure creatively. So here, our green and blue infrastructure strategy is at the heart of decision making. It informs Manchester's development plan. It informs our city community vision, which is called Our Manchester. It informs our climate change action plan. And in turn, focus studies inform it. A focus on biodiversity, on parks, and on trees and woodlands. It's important to have that plan because that helps you to establish the vision and where you want to be. Next slide, please. Just to clarify then, in relation to definition, nature-based solutions are actions and interventions inspired by nature. Creative use of a suite of MBS in the urban environment, in my opinion, is the way forward. We are seeing lots more of these type of interventions: green walls, green roofs, rain gardens, street trees appearing in public realm projects across the city. And we know that the principles behind this are about enhancing sustainable urban development, restoring ecosystems, and improving our resilience to climate change. We have got an opportunity now as city planners and city leaders to make change happen because there is the momentum for change, I feel. We use this information positively to work with our flood defence engineers, our highways engineers, our city planners to utilise MBS effectively. We can now demonstrate the actual value of using nature and green space solutions and also developing a business case for investment. So next slide, please. So we know green is good, but it's important for you to look at your landscape and understand what it's made up of. I don't expect you to look at the detail on this map. It's purely illustrative, but we will send you a reference point for this report where this information comes from. Having a basic understanding of your city's landscape is essential. How can you make effective decisions if you don't know what is already there? So we were able, through an EU City Lab project, to break our city down into 32 neighbourhoods, and in turn, 9 typologies of landscape. So those typologies included gardens, parks, woodlands, grasslands, derelict land. And we were able then to see that every neighbourhood is different. Again, you don't need to see the detail, but on the bar chart, the 2 columns right at the end are the city centre within Manchester. They're the lowest amount of cover of green and blue infrastructure in the city. No surprises, and that will be representative across cities across the UK and Europe, I'm sure. But having that baseline is really, really valuable to us. Next slide, please. It's a question of understanding the environmental challenges that relate to the city. So using that baseline that we've got of where the green and blue space is in the city, then you can overlay that information with data relating to various other environmental challenges. In this case, the map on the left relates to access to green and blue spaces. The map on the right relates to air pollution. And I've circled there 2 areas of the city where this allows you to use detective work to find where those priorities for investment should be. Again, it's in the city centre where you've got high levels of air pollution, low levels of access to green space. So that presents an opportunity. You start to see some interesting correlations. Next slide, please. And we use this approach to illustrate those complex challenges in a visually accessible way. We call this the net benefits wheel. Again, don't look at the detail. It's just very much about the graphic illustration of complex environmental challenges. Simple yet effective. We produced this in 2018 for every neighbourhood in Manchester. It gives each individual each individual challenge a score. The lower the score, the more opportunity to use MBS effectively. And examples of those challenges include flood risk, air quality, access to nature, and climate regulation. A key learning here is that sometimes you need to listen to all voices. Some people, some communities might be quite quiet, and it's not necessarily those who shout loudest who need to be held first. We want, as I think it was Katarzyna said, a needs-based approach. Who needs it most and why? Can your plan identify those priority areas and communities that need it most, not just those who shout loudest? And what the benefits wheel allows you to do is start that conversation. So it's really exciting to use it in this way. Next slide, please. What you can do is you can apply area-based comparisons at different spatial levels. So this is a collection of neighbourhoods in the city that have collectively, those challenges might differ. And on the next slide, please. Whereas individual neighbourhoods get their own environmental assessment, which is really useful when trying to establish a dialogue with partners and communities and establishing your own priorities. So the benefits wheel really helps us to start those conversations with communities, with politicians, and with practitioners. Next slide, please. It also allows us to use data to look at individual typologies and look at, again, where we can prioritize. This piece of work looks at tree cover. And what you can see from the map on the right is where the red dots are. They are areas of low tree cover within the city. So it allows us then to prioritize where planting is needed. And again, it allows you to take analysis and research to another level. So next slide, please. This is a really exciting piece of work that we've been involved with called Growing Manchester's Trees, and it allows us to provide neighbourhood-based tree capacity maps. Every neighbourhood in the city, we can tell them how many trees they could potentially be able to plant within their neighbourhood and where. So whether it's on roads and highways, in parks, in green spaces, or on public realm land or agricultural land, this allows you to focus where planting campaigns could and should be delivered. And it's already yielding results. Data can be incredibly powerful. Next slide, please. We were able to demonstrate that this data has been stimulated investment. So our Growing Manchester's Trees target is to have 64,000 new trees by 2050. And immediately our politicians grasped onto this and provided us with over £1 million to invest in focused tree planting. So already that type of information is yielding significant results. And what I would say, it enables us to address environmental inequalities and social inequalities, really important to target communities who need it most. Next slide, please. Another challenge, as well as looking at the treescape, was flood resilience. How could we target challenges in relation to this? So the map on the left relates to flood risk from rivers, and the map on the right relates to surface water flooding. And we use this data to start conversations around permeability within the city's landscape. Next slide, please. We are working with a partner city in China called Wuhan around the concept of sponge city thinking, landscape-led approaches for better climate resilience. Now, Wuhan are brilliant at this. 25% of their megacity is made up of water. So increasing permeability can really help them when it comes to dealing with extreme weather events. And in Manchester, as we said earlier, we're seeing more and more increased flooding events within the city. So using these sponge city principles and turning them into practical action is what we were able to do. Next slide, please. Our Rivers, Our City is a key new piece of evidence where long-term action plans were developed. It was produced in 2021 and funded through Horizon 2020 and provided a detailed analysis of the city's front line of climate defence, our river valleys. And this is already yielding significant results. Over £1 million of new project support for river valley projects has been delivered, including creating new jobs and new training sessions being delivered, working with citizens, all a result of having that detailed information. It's also a nominated finalist in the Landscape, or it was a nominated finalist in the Landscape Institute Awards. Next slide, please. And here is a local scheme. I'm sure we've all got them. And what could we possibly do with an area like this? A derelict piece of land with neighbourhoods at possible risk of flooding, but perfect for a suite of nature-based interventions with multiple benefits. Next slide, please. So through Horizon 2020 project, it's already been referenced, the Grow Green project, we were able to deliver a vision for these spaces that improved climate resilience. Next slide, please. And this is the end result. Our first dedicated climate change green space. And can I just say, we love Wrocław. We have worked with Malgorzata and the team at Wrocław and numerous partners through Grow Green to actually deliver this project. Working collaboratively and in tandem has allowed us to deliver an award-winning landscape development scheme. It's a park that drinks water and reflects the Sponge City principles of permeability. It's also got multiple other benefits, health and well-being benefits for the local community and biodiversity benefits to wildlife. It's won many national awards for smart use of MBS to mitigate the effects of flooding. So this allows us, it provides us that pilot, that demonstrator that we can go back to our flood risk engineers and our highways planners and say, look at this. Here's a good example of us translating hard landscape schemes into nature-based solutions. And we're still doing it. Next slide, please. We've taken these landscape-led approaches and applied them in the heart of our city. This is Manchester's first city centre park opened in the last 100 years. A new 4-hectare park with a restored river valley, a restored river section rather, a 2-minute walk from Manchester's main train station. It's incredible. It's £20 million worth of investment and incorporates Sponge City thinking and has landscape quality and functionality at its heart. It was supported by us having a strong vision for green and blue infrastructure in the city. It was delivered on budget, on time, despite the pandemic. And this is bold visionary thinking, this landscape-led approach brought to life in Manchester. Next slide, please. Getting towards the end now, I think it's really important to celebrate success. All the hard work that we're doing to deliver these schemes deserves recognition. So it's important, I think, for your cities to seek out awards and get recognition for projects, because you can become the next benchmarks of excellence. And our civic leaders, our politicians, our senior management team, they love getting an award. So let's make sure that we can get that recognition for these great projects. Final slide then, please. So just to summarize, in my opinion, green infrastructure is the life support system of your city, and that everything is connected. Health and well-being, transport, economy, and climate resilience, all interlinked through developing nature-based solutions. And if you commission strong, accessible evidence, you can deliver real change and will benefit your city for many years to come. Thank you very much. That's my presentation over. Thank you.
Dziękuję, Dave, za tą prezentację.
Thank you so much, Dave, for the presentation. It was very inspiring. It has resulted in a few reflections of mine. You have demonstrated success stories, what you have achieved. I believe it is achievable with the right leader in place, someone who is bold enough to dare, and I believe you are one of such persons. One thing concerns me, is interesting for me. Maybe there is something else you believe could be done. How did you manage to engage in a dialogue with so many stakeholders? How did you manage to come up with a joint strategy between so many different entities? One more complementary question. Manchester is a city where all people identify with the goal that you have put forward. They all play in one team. So this makes the dialogue easier, perhaps, in my opinion. What does it look like from your perspective?
I think it's a very interesting question. And I think it's the importance, recognizing that you have got a strong, varied and complex network of stakeholders, that it's very important, I think, to make sure that your engagement is effective and we're not just consulting, that it's effective engagement. So different dialogue needs to be had with different audiences. So talking to our communities and citizens using something like the benefits wheel is a very visual way of getting across complex information. Talking to maybe some of our academic colleagues in universities might need a different type of engagement approach. I think we are fortunate is that our strength is that we are trying to change our behaviours within the city. I think it's very reflective. As you've said, I've worked for the city, the municipality for over 40 years, and I've seen those behaviours change, where the landscape is now very much part of critical infrastructure, and our political leaders believe in that. I think it was very telling during the pandemic that green spaces were incredibly prominent in terms of the benefits that they were delivering to communities. And with climate change so high on everybody's agenda, it gives us that window of opportunity to engage positively. I think creating the networks isn't easy, but I think we have been doing this for over 20 years, trying to build those connections. And as we said, we never stop learning. So having that ongoing dialogue with this range of, whether it's practitioners, whether it's developers, politicians, planners, or citizens, it's an ongoing process. It never ends. It's very flexible and very dynamic.
Tak, zgodziłbym się z tym.
I totally agree with what you've said.
Mam jeszcze jedno pytanie.
One more question, if you please.
Minutę po czasie, ale chciałbym
We are running out of time, but I would like to ask this question nonetheless. You opened your presentation with visualizations that presented data, information. You convinced me that you know your city in and out. As you discussed with decision makers and our stakeholders, how important would you say is having the right data at your disposal? Does it help to calm down the emotions and concentrate on the substance of the problem?
I couldn't agree more. Exactly. It does take the emotive element out of discussions sometimes. I think if you can have strong, focused discussion, and it's great to have emotional, enthusiastic responses to a particular challenge, but if you can always refer back to the science and to the evidence, then it's an incredibly positive thing, because it's a consistent starting point for those conversations and bringing people back to that basic stuff that we've got, whether it's the extent of green infrastructure within the city, whether it's looking at those particular environmental challenges in a way, it allows you, like you say, to focus back on the case in point, which is this is how we're going to make this change, is by changing the measures as over time. So ongoing monitoring. So we'll revisit that particular piece of work, which is called The Nature of Manchester. I will circulate a link to it. It's all in English. I do apologize for that. But it's a great piece of work. And for me, it's that permanent reference point that all the exciting and emotive discussion can go back, but we bring it back to what's actually there and what we actually need, because some of our communities, as you say, some shout louder than others, and we need to bring it back to say, actually, we should be working in these areas now. And that really is being picked up by colleagues in our planning and parks teams to target energies, not on the easy projects, but on the harder to reach groups and projects. So, having that baseline for me is fundamental. It's something I refer to on a weekly basis, effectively.
Dziękuję.
Dziękuję za tę wypowiedź. Thank you for the presentation.
Drodzy Państwo, jesteśmy po pierwszej części naszego spotkania.
Płynnie przechodzimy do części of the conference has passed. We are now moving fluently to the second stage of the conference. This is going to be a continuation of what we started.
Odejściu od emocji, oparciu
We're going to talk about removing the emotional side from the discussion and the process of adaptation to climate change. We're going to talk about NBS solutions and their implementation based on science and scientific evidence. We're going to talk about how to create information and knowledge and how to make the best possible, reasonable decisions. Now, I would like to give the floor to Dominik Kopeć. In MGGP Aero, he's a deputy head of teledetection department. He's responsible for using teledetection. And in the LIFECOOLCITY Project, he's been responsible for the correctness of data used in this project. Dominik is going to talk to you about the vision of the project and the concepts. In the next two presentations, Alicja Gadawska and Robert Mazur are going to tell you in detail about different products and results the project is expected to yield. I'm giving you the floor, Robert. You have full 15 minutes.
Thank you very much. I hope 15 minutes is going to be enough because it's logic, the entire project. Well, it's a huge organizational challenge, but also it gives us an opportunity to provide effects that are really needed in the context of cities' adaptation to climate change.
Kwestii jeszcze takich formalnych, to co Łukasz
wspominał w czasie wprowadzenia. Formal elements, Łukasz already talked about that. LIFECOOLCITY is implemented under the LIFE project. It's a close-to-market project as well. It's a huge challenge for us too. And the title is Using Remote Sensing to Manage the Blue and Green Infrastructure of Cities in the Process of Adaptation to Climate Change. The duration of the project, 8 months. It started on the 1st of January 2023. It's going to last until mid-2029. I'm going to go back to these dates later on to tell you why this project needs to take so much time in order to be effectively implemented and in order for the effects to be tangible and visible. Today, we already talked about the support from the EU, how the European Union supports member states in the process of climate change adaptation. And there are many tools used to do that. There are many EU tools to do that, and it is in line in the Green Deal and other strategies of the European Union. There are many EU strategies that actually are connected with this subject. So our project is aligned with the current trends and the policy of the EU today, and it provides tools that allow us to implement these strategic documents. So let's start from the following question. Is anybody waiting for this project? Well, we started our project with a diagnosis. We wanted to diagnose the needs of cities in terms of managing blue and green infrastructure. And in the recent months, maybe you also received such a survey, but in the recent months we have sent a survey whose aim was to collect knowledge at the very beginning of the project. So what are the real needs of cities in terms of adaptation to climate change? We started from Polish cities, and today I'm going to talk about the results of this survey. We conducted this survey in some cities. We are still conducting it in others. So let me focus on 3 questions that have already been answered. The answers are compiled based on a survey that was administered to 150 cities. So the current state of greenery, of vegetation in the city, the question is, have you observed negative phenomena related to water scarcity in the landscape? Over 70% of cities said that yes, they have observed such phenomena, such events, negative events. So this is a global challenge for cities. So vegetation, greenery in cities is really, really important for cities. Another question, this pertained to extreme weather events. Has the city seen an increased impact of extreme weather events on city functioning, on city operations, so the condition of infrastructure, safety, etc. And here, please look at the slide. Over 40% of cities said yes, that they have observed that, and nearly 40 cities do not know anything about it. They do not have any knowledge about it. So it's another proof showing us that adaptation of cities to climate change is important, and it affects many, many cities in Poland, and I'm sure that in Europe as well. And another thing, the project whose aim is to adapt to climate change, and one of the flagship projects in many cities are projects related to treating concretosis, so removing concrete from cities, like Plac Nowy Targ in Wrocław. We asked cities whether they have implemented any projects like this. It turned out that 40% of cities do or are implementing such projects, but over 60% of cities have not implemented any project like this, or even they do not plan to have these projects implemented. So this is the beginning of the road pertaining to city adaptation to climate change. So we can summarize these 3 questions in the following way. Today, these challenges that we are facing are bigger and bigger, and at the same time, we are only realizing what the scale of these challenges is and how to tackle them, how to identify these adaptation needs in cities, how to manage this blue and green infrastructure to mitigate the effects of climate change, what activities are effective, how to monitor the effectiveness of these activities. We hope that this project will answer these questions, and it will offer tools in the market that will help answer these questions. Let's now move on to our general goal of our project. Our goals are very ambitious. They are connected not only with cities in Poland, but in cities all over Europe, of the European Union. So we want to increase the adaptive potential to climate change of at least 10,000 cities in the European Union by introducing systems for monitoring blue and green infrastructure and support for decisions using remote sensing. I'm going to tell you how we are going to implement this goal. We are going to do that by introducing nature-based solutions and improving or supporting blue and green infrastructure and providing facts, providing knowledge and data pertaining to the condition of the blue and green infrastructure and the needs of cities. Our idea of the project is a comprehensive approach. This comprehensive approach is supposed to support cities, but also other stakeholders in terms of adaptation to climate change. Since our goal is to strengthen this adaptation potential of 10,000 cities, under the project we are developing tools whose goal is to provide basic knowledge to all these 10,000 cities. Apart from that, we want to place a special focus on one city, our demonstration city, that is Wrocław, so that we can actually test particular solutions there. Under the project, we are going to build two systems, Europe system and city system. And via these two systems, we are going to implement 4 products in the market. The name is related to our project, Cool City, and the products are Cool City Ranking, Cool City View, Cool City Design, and Cool City Monitoring. The first 2 are going to be created based on satellite data, and they are going to be analyzed within the Europe system. And Cool City Design and Cool City Monitoring, these are going to be based on aerial data, and they are going to be analyzed within the city system. And where our 2 systems are going to be calibrated is Wrocław, our demonstration city. And as Łukasz said, this is our experimental city where we are going to calibrate our works under the project. And now let's think who is going to use these products. Why do we have 4 of them? Well, so who are the target groups? In order to support cities in the adaptation to climate change, this support cannot focus on one solution. A solution that can be dedicated to one department or some authority department or unit, etc. No, this project should be extensive and should support numerous aspects, starting from strategists, so president or mayor of the city, policymakers, strategists at the level of EU or maybe at the regional level, and also inhabitants, city inhabitants, as well as private individuals and people who manage greenery on an everyday basis, or maybe they work in sustainable development departments. And looking at these 4 products under the project, we would like to support the entire adaptation process. So we would like to provide solutions that would support the process at the strategic level. And here, mainly, we have satellite products, so Cool City Ranking and Cool City View, and tactical and strategic level, where we provide products based on aerial data, so more detailed data, more precise data that can be used by sustainable development departments, greenery departments, so that they can actually rebuild cities, so that they can plan investments, so that they can monitor the effectiveness of these activities. And now, what is the common ground of the project? These are adaptation activities as well as factors that strengthen the adaptation potential of cities, that shape this potential. And we actually focused on 5 such factors. These are factors that, according to recent research shape the blue potential of the city and green potential of the city. In the project, we deal with land sealing, we deal with urban heat island, the state of the blue and green infrastructure, and biodiversity. Within these 5 adaptation factors, we want to gain knowledge in terms of aerial and satellite data. We want to understand how to diagnose this state or condition and how to improve it. As the leader of the consortium, MGGP Aero deals with obtaining and processing data and providing this data to numerous cities. And these are our roots. Our activities have focused on providing information to cities pertaining to land sealing, for example. Orthophoto maps or hyperspectral maps have been processed via numerous processes. You can see a map, an example that has been prepared within the project. This is a part of Wrocław from last year. And we have also analyzed the impact of the urban heat island using thermal data. You can see the Nowy Targ Square, we talked about it today, and you can see the temperature that has been registered at the square even before we performed the adaptation activities on the 12th of August. So all these adaptation factors are visible using our data. Our data presents these factors very precisely. You can see classification of trees, you can see tree coverage, you can see wetlands, you can see river valleys. And as a result, you can identify where in the space of cities you have areas that are characterized with higher biodiversity, or maybe these are places that cool the city temperature-wise. We also have experience in monitoring trees in cities. So we provide cities with projects that actually monitor cities in cities. So we monitor condition of trees, for instance. So you can see the state of the blue and green infrastructure. We assess the health of this infrastructure, and we can pinpoint those places where, for example, the condition of trees is poor or deteriorated. And you can see tree species map, and via this map, you can, for example, analyze the biodiversity of a city. So you can see the dendroflora of the city, tree flora of the city, and you can see whether the city, whether this flora is resilient to climate change or not. So this is how we started the project. So that was the beginning of the project. We had data, we had information about the condition of the blue and green infrastructure. And now what happened next and where we want to go? Well, together with the members of the consortium, we want to develop indicators that will allow us to diagnose the condition of the vegetation in a given city. We want to pinpoint the places where the needs are the highest within the city, where the situation is the best, where it is the worst. We want to recommend some activities within the system, activities that will support the development of the blue and green infrastructure. We want to implement certain activities in Wrocław according to the recommendations of the system and the tools that are used and developed within the system. And as a consequence, we want to repeat the entire process of obtaining data, of producing, so to say, information, so that we can compare the condition of the city before and after these investment activities. And we want to, as a result, assess whether these activities were effective and whether they allowed to solve certain problems in the city. This is our consortium. We are the leader, but we do not work alone. All these works that we have planned would not be possible without our demonstration city as well as partners in our consortium that Łukasz has already mentioned. So I would not like to distinguish anybody because we all work very intensively to achieve the goal. So this is our consortium. It is an interdisciplinary consortium. There are biologists, economists, hydrologists, etc. So taking into account the goal of our project, this interdisciplinary aspect is crucial. Without it, we would not be able to achieve our effects. Why 78 months? Right now, we are building the systems and we are calibrating the systems, and this process is going to last 3 years. Then the next 2 years are going to be devoted for implementation. We are going to implement solutions proposed by the system. So this will take 2 years, and in Wrocław, these works are going to be implemented. And after that, we are going to go back to our system and we are going to repeat the process of data collection. Then we are going to create new projects, new products, and we are going to assess the effectiveness of these activities. And in the meantime, we are communicating, we are promoting, we are networking, and since we are close to market, at the same time, we hope that our products within the project are going to be interesting to business, and that we are going to be able to multiply our effects, and that we are going to be able to sell the products. Okay, and what is going to happen next? We are going to talk in detail on the works on our products, but let me tell you a couple of words about the differences between the products. Cool City Ranking, it is a free of charge product. It's a ranking published every year pertaining to 10,000 cities in Europe. Each city in the ranking is going to be one record in the database, and the potential of the city is going to be assessed in view or in the context of these 5 adaptation environmental factors that I've mentioned. These factors strengthen the city's potential to adapt to climate change. And this is like a general indicator assessing the condition of the blue and green infrastructure. Is free of charge, and it's going to be available at our platform Life in Cool City, and it's going to be available as a PDF report. Cool City View, this is product number 2. It's based on satellite data as well, but it's upon request. It's provided upon request. It's a report developed by experts that we cooperate with, and these experts individually assess the space of a given city. And within this request, we are going to provide a given city with such a report, and we are going to provide the city with a description of the state of the city. For example, this can be used for certain climate change departments. Via analysis of climate change, we are going to provide information on spatial variation in the city. We are going to divide the city into different neighborhoods, etc., and we're going to assess the adaptation potential. And finally, product number 3 and 4, these are products based on aerial data for the entire city. And Cool City Design, we're going to diagnose the condition of the environment. We are going to identify the places, the sites with the lowest and highest adaptation potential, and we are going to build a decision support system, allowing decision makers to decide what actions should be introduced as a priority. And as a result, we are going to introduce these activities in Wrocław. And finally, Cool City Monitoring. This is an extension of Cool City Design. So Cool City Monitoring, again, is based on aerial data, and it analyzes changes between particular points in which data was collected so that the effectiveness of adaptation activities can be assessed. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm sorry for the delay. I exceeded my time, and I give you the floor now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. you have experienced exactly how such a complex subject, such a diversified subject, as Dave has said, has been synthetically and in a reasonable way, understandable way, described by Dominik Kopeć. I believe it's impossible. Dominik has proved it is possible indeed. We know what our vision is. Right now, I would like to ask Alicja Gardawska to talk about it in detail. In our team, she's responsible for communication and marketing, so she plays a very important role in the entire project. She's responsible for the success of the dialogue we have been engaging in. She is going to tell us how satellite data support the management of green and GRU infrastructure from the perspective of Cool City Ranking, Cool City View products for 10,000 cities in the European Union. Alicja, I'm giving you the floor. Thank you so much, Łukasz. Good afternoon to everyone. I hope you can see the first slide of the presentation. If you can, please tell me that you can see it. Thank you for the introduction. Today, I am tasked with talking to you about our two projects we've been developing within the LIFECOOLCITY Project. I'm going to try to answer the question that was asked in the very beginning. How can satellite data support the management of blue and green infrastructure for the 10,000 cities in the European Union? I'm going to show to you in detail our assumptions as well as the effects of our two products, Cool City Ranking and Cool City View. These are products that have been designed for municipalities with the aim of improving their potential to adapt to climate change, as well as to support them in effectively managing blue and green infrastructure. The names of these products are not a coincidence. I'm going to demonstrate to you a product that is really a ranking. It's been supporting us in valorizing space, urban space in the European Union, whereas Cool City View, as the name suggests, is an overview, some kind of a cross-section look at a city with the aim of assessing its adaptation potential. I would like to start the presentation by demonstrating the logic for these two products, what we have achieved so far, and what our work looks like, and how we develop these projects. I'm going to start with Cool City Ranking. As I've already said, it's a first attempt at looking at the space of Europe. In our products, we move from detail to more general matters. We look from space at Europe through the lens of a satellite. We use satellite data, we acquire the data. In a moment, I'm going to present the kinds of data to you, and we analyze urban spaces of the European Union, analyzing it city by city. Based on satellite data, we conduct a variety of geo-analyses, and we use them to present 5 different factors of adaptation. We develop information products based on the condition of the green and blue infrastructure, on the spatial distribution of urban heat island, and later on these information products are translated into satellite indicators. Because of that, we can credibly assess particular cities. As a result of working on these satellite indicators, we can define an integrated index, which is called the Cool City Index. What is the Cool City Ranking and what it's going to be? On one hand, you are going to receive a report in PDF format. From it, you will be able to gather recommendations and conclusions. On the other hand, all the data, all the conclusions from the ranking are going to be fed to all stakeholders as a unpaid geo-service, LIFECOOLCITY, which I'm going to talk to you about in a few minutes. It's important to highlight that the report is going to be generated on an annual basis. Because of that, you'll be able to analyze how your adaptation potential changes over time. What is the main goal of Cool City ranking? First and foremost, it's supposed to allow you to independently evaluate action that needs to be taken. It's supposed to provide you with knowledge about those regions of the EU who have the lowest or highest adaptation potential. Finally, it's supposed to provide municipalities with information on what steps they need to take in order to improve their adaptation potential. Who is this product dedicated to? Well, undoubtedly both to mayors of cities who need to obtain information on the initial assessment of its adaptation potential. On the other hand, it's also a product dedicated to decision makers, so politicians and everyone else who's responsible for shaping policies of adapting to climate change. What we also wanted to achieve was creating a product available to all stakeholders, predominantly the residents, because every resident who is interested in the subject of cities' adaptation to climate change will be able to obtain interesting knowledge on how well their city is coping in terms of adapting to climate change. As far as Cool City View is concerned, which is a product dedicated to particular cities, we are making a step ahead. In our observation of Europe, we are zooming in on a particular city. Here we can see Wrocław. We constantly use satellite data, and using the data, we analyze what's within the city. We conduct a series of analyses based on the data, and we developed information products, providing us with information on how can the city adapt to climate change. Once these information products have been developed, we create satellite indicators, allowing us to credibly assess the adaptation potential of the city. It's a very detailed product tailored to a particular city. It aims to demonstrate the spatial analysis of how diversified a city is in terms of the 5 indicators creating a city's adaptation potential. It's a product providing maps. It's a product demonstrating the spatial distribution of the city's adaptation. It also provides a report with all critical information we have obtained from satellite indicators, and its main goal is to provide information about the spatial distribution of these indicators. It also indicates so-called hot and cool spots. These are spots that, on one hand, require action concerning the increase of adaptation potential, but on the other hand, the product also aims to indicate areas of high adaptation potential that requires protection. The purpose of the project is to sketch a roadmap for particular action which needs to be taken in order to increase the potential of a particular city, suggesting nature-based solutions and other products developed within LIFECOOLCITY Project. Another thing I would like to talk to you about within the presentation is something that might seem very basic on the surface. This is called the selection and border of a city. As we prepared the project, we had to define the work area. These are the 10,000 cities of the European Union. However, it turned out to be a pretty major challenge because at the moment we are finalizing to define the methodology of defining a city and its boundaries, because what we found is this: as we started to ask ourselves what is a city, we weren't able to answer this question in a clear way. As it emerged from our research and analysis, there is a variety of documents, not only European, which lack a clear definition of a city, a universal, clear-cut definition that would be the same for all European cities. Different countries, different states have their own definition of what a city is. Based on these definitions, they decide how to act in terms of a particular city. But nonetheless, we have been faced with the lack of a clear definition, and we needed to define a city to our own use. Another problem we faced was the inconsistency of databases concerning cities, because we know that there is information on cities, there is a lot of data concerning cities. However, the quality varies a lot. Sometimes the data is better, sometimes it's worse quality. There was a huge inconsistency of data. Over time, we were precisely interested in spatial data, which is why we decided to come up with a definition of a city that would allow us to ascribe the same criteria to all cities under analysis. This would allow us to compare cities in the macro scale. So, what is a city for the purpose of Life and Cool City project? In our methodology, we defined a city as an urbanized area within a local administration unit delineated with the use of the Gerber classification, which is degree of urbanization, taking into consideration demographical data received from National Centers of Statistics. Here we can see a city of Olsztyn. The black lines are borders of administration units. Here we can see Olsztyn within its administration division. In our project, we tried to define a city as an urbanized area that we want to research in terms of adaptation to climate change, and we decided this is a much smaller area. This is what we are looking at seen in orange. Since this is the approach we assume with every city, we can effectively compare cities to one another. Another question I wish to answer is how we decided to choose the 10,000 cities. We defined three basic criteria. Obviously, a city needs to be within the European Union. It's an EU-funded project, co-funded by the European Commission. Therefore, we decided to limit the scope to European cities. Another important criteria was the climate zone. We chose cities from 22 states located in the continental and moderate climates, excluding the Mediterranean climate, because we believe that temperate, moderate climates is the majority of Europe, and this would allow us to compare cities to one another. We also had to define the upper limit on the size of population in the urban cluster. We decided to select cities with a population of more or less above 3,000 residents. How we decided to define the boundaries? We divided into three different stages. In the first stage, we compiled a list of cities. We obtained demographical data from 22 national statistic offices. Here we can see how many cities were included in the database. These are 10,000 cities in our database. Another step was to locate cities. We decided to create a point surface of urban areas, and later on we decided to put this to come up with a grid. To conclude this segment of my presentation, I wanted to show you why we decided this was the right way to do. Here we can see a Rovaniemi city in Finland. Why in quotes? Because it's deemed the largest city in Europe. According to the Finnish administration division, it's 16 times the size of Warsaw, although its population sits at around 60,000 residents. Here we can see how administration division state to state might be misleading if we wish to compare different European cities to one another. What you see marked with orange on your right-hand side is the city of Rovaniemi according to our definition and our criteria. This is the accurate urbanized area of Rovaniemi. Summarizing on the subject of categorization, I wish to explain a few more words about ascribing personality to cities, as well as expanding our knowledge of cities. Cool City Ranking is meant to become a ranking tool, allowing us to assess the potential of a particular city. Within the consortium, we decided we had to come up with some way of categorizing the cities in order to not fall into the trap of comparing big cities to small cities, which doesn't make much sense, or to exclude cities that are similar. The criteria we came up with are administrative criteria, demographic criteria, physical and geographic, climatic, social, economic, and indicators-based. Another important matter I would like to include is satellite data. As I've said in the very beginning, the two first tools, Cool City Ranking and Cool City View, are products we've been developing based on satellite data. This is our source of information for European cities. Why did we decide to use satellite data? Because we can obtain this data at intervals. They have a lot of spectral channels. They provide a lot of information we can use for remote sensing of these data, and we used free open source data provided by the Copernicus program. I'm talking about the Sentinel mission. We also use data from the Landsat. We believe that at the moment this is the best available source of satellite data that we use to develop our products used in the thermal analysis of the surface. On the basis of satellite data, we develop satellite indicators, allowing us to develop the further indicators of how well cities adapt to climate change. What are the satellite indicators I've been telling you about? This is the division of cities depending on the current state. They allow us to effectively compare cities in the Cool City Ranking, as well as to provide information from the context of aerospatial definition of these cities. For the purpose of these indicators, we use a variety of different non-satellite indicators. There are only some indicators we've been analyzing. Our purpose is to make sure that all these indicators are tested, and we aim to select the best ones. We aim to choose at least one indicator for at least one factor, but we wish to choose more. And in case of Cool City Ranking, we wish to develop an integrated indicator for Cool City Index. We have been engaged in a lot of effort, and we can see the results for Cool City Ranking. These are preliminary results of two indicators. On the left, we can see the share of surface, water, and wetlands. Every indicator is visualized as a dot. On the right-hand side, you can see the distribution and share of plans in terms of European cities.
Okay, so you might ask, what is the difference between Cool City Ranking and Cool City View? You can see the visualization here. In the case of Cool City ranking, we treat a city as a point, and you can see, for example, the vegetation share here as points. And in Cool City View, we go deeper into the city, and you can see a city divided into neighborhoods or districts. And you can see, for example, a degradation index that analyzes the spatial changes on the map. Here, in turn, you can see Cool City View. You can see the urban heat island, or rather the surface urban heat island, and you can see the spatial differentiation here. You can see the hexagonal grid to the left, but also you can see to the right urbanization units. So you can see our current effects of our works in terms of these satellite indicators. And last but not least, the product called Cool City Ranking. Well, we want to share this information. We want to promote this information in the form of a free of charge report published annually. We are working on a very clear and transparent template of such a report. You can see the initial effects of our work. So we are going to collect information about the results of our work, and we are going to, move forward. And you can see the internet platform, Life in Cool City. So also this information is going to be provided on the platform, and via this platform, you can access these reports as well as GeoService, by using which you will be able to analyze the effects of the ranking in the form of a web application. So we want to create an information hub. We want to create a space on the internet where we can talk about cities' adaptation to climate change reliably. Of course, we are going to talk about the products too, but we want to create a space where we want to communicate with cities. This is going to be a common space for everyone, to all stakeholders that want to talk about climate change and adaptation to climate change. Later on, we are going to talk about consultation cities. We encourage cities to join us, to support us in creating these products. So I would like to encourage you to stay tuned, because we are going to talk about these questions further on. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you very much, Alicja, for your presentation. Wow, this was a very interesting story. I couldn't tell you that you exceeded your time by 10 minutes, but I couldn't force myself to tell you that, because that was very interesting what you were saying. And that was a, very interesting subject, and I think that this time was required for you to present all this information in a very clear and transparent way. As we've said before, the project and the challenges that we are facing, well, these are very complex, they are very hard. You talked about the methodology, you talked about examples of cities, etc., but this is only an example of the difficulties and challenges that can be faced when talking about adaptation to climate change in entire Europe. Okay, and now I would like to ask Robert, who is a software developer expert and modeling expert in our team, and he is a co-author of Cool City Design and Monitoring. So now, as a co-author of this product and as a recipient of the product, he's going to talk about that. He's a member of a city council, so at the same time, he's a stakeholder of this solution. I'm sure he wants to take care of the space, urban space where he lives. So, Robert, the floor is yours, and please, stick to your time limit. Okay, I'll try. Can you see my presentation? Yes, we can see your presentation. Right, okay. So let me start with a question. Where does planting a tree give the greatest benefit to the city? For example, a mayor can ask this question. Let's say that a mayor wants to plant 10,000 trees during his term of office, and as an employee at the greenery department, well, you need to know the answer. So where will you find the greatest benefits? As Dave Barlow said, sometimes people scream or yell the loudest, maybe there you should plant a tree, but maybe you should look at other areas. Maybe you should look at areas where this tree will give you a lot of shade because there's a lot of concrete in this particular site. Or maybe you will find another site because there are sites that may benefit from trees because these trees are going to provide some ecosystem services. Well, as Dominic said, Cool City Design is related to Cool City Monitoring. We offer a platform, decision-supporting platform to cities that will show you where it is worth implementing NBS solutions. And also we want to monitor the effectiveness of our decisions. We want to know whether we made the right decision, whether the rain garden, whether this planted tree indeed help to improve the condition of the city, vegetation-wise, biodiversity-wise, green infrastructure-wise. So these products are connected with each other, but right now we are focusing on Cool City Design because we have NBS catalog, we have diagnosed the state of the city, and then naturally we are moving on to the next stage, that is Cool City Monitoring. Okay, so what are our questions in this product? These are key questions at a city level, because very often we operate at a local level, but also the city level is important because a city can be enormous. A lot of money can be invested in environment-related initiatives, so you need to make a decision where your priorities will lie. Also, civic budgets are in place. Inhabitants want to improve biodiversity. Inhabitants want to have more and more blue and green infrastructure, but they do not know how to do it. And thanks to our system, we want to provide cities with a platform that will help them answer these questions. Okay, so now let me give you two comments here. This is simulation data. This is not the final result. And second of all, we are working in the test area of Wrocław. So it's not a demo version. We are working on our test area, partially in the very city center of Wrocław and partially outside the very city center of Wrocław. So one of the most important questions that we want to answer is the following. What kind of action in a given location is most effective? Well, all those environmental parameters are so important that maybe you should just protect this area, or maybe you should leave the place B. You should leave the area B and you will have natural succession. Or maybe in some places we will recommend planting high trees. Sometimes we will recommend removing concrete slabs. Sometimes we will recommend retention solutions in certain areas. But in some area you have a mixture of all these problems, problems with land sealing, you have problems with vegetation, and you need to use a mixture of solutions like, for example, green roofs. Okay, so what activities can we check in Cool City Design? We have a NBS catalog and we have three types of activities. First of all, protection. We believe that a given space, a given site is valuable, it's priceless, and it needs to be protected. And here you can include this site in the zoning plan of the city. You can create a reserve, for example, Natura 2000. You have many, many types of activities that you can use for protection of a given site. Then the second type is changing the way of maintenance. Sometimes you only need to decrease the extent of mowing. You just need to change the way of maintaining trees. If the trees are in a poor condition, you need to maybe substitute soil, or maybe you just need to take up some other actions that will affect the vegetation in that particular site. And the third type of activity is building the blue and green infrastructure. So developing squares, planting shrubs, trees, retention-related activities, for example, retention basin, a rain garden, etc. So these are the three types of activities that we have in the catalogue. And now, in order to answer the question related to which of these activities is most effective, well, we need to have an analysis and we need to compare whether here a rain garden will be more effective, or maybe planting trees will be more effective, or maybe having green roofs will be more effective, etc. And our system will conduct these thousands and thousands of simulations in real time upon request, upon inquiry from an official. And here you can see an example. This is the improvement of adaptation to climate change after removing concrete slabs. And the center of the Wrocław requires these activities more compared to, for example, areas near the motorway or the suburbs, because there they have a green buffer. So the city center needs these activities more. This is a priority in the city center. These simulations, in turn, are created because we analyze 5 factors building the adaptation potential of the city that Dominik and Alicja already talked about. So we analyze the state of the blue, green, and biodiversity condition. We analyze the urban heat island and land ceiling, and having information about these 5 factors, can we actually have a simulation, and then we will see where this tree will improve, the condition of the vegetation in a given site. Here you can see land ceiling in Wrocław, and again, the very center needs changes the most, but also new areas of apartments, new housing estates also require action in this area. And only after we have gathered all the information can we say which NBS solutions can be implemented in a given area. But it's not that easy, because talking about the state or condition of the green infrastructure, we all think that we know what it is all about. We also thought that we knew what green infrastructure was. And when we were writing the application, we asked our experts to identify areas in Wrocław with a very good state of the green infrastructure, together with a description. And for example, these people said, okay, there's too little vegetation, there's too little high vegetation, or the condition is very good because there are many trees along the street, etc. So as you can see, the members of the consortium paid attention to different aspects of the condition of the vegetation. They talked about the height of the trees, the number of the trees, the share of the trees, the share of the vegetation. So all this needs to be perceived through the prism of some common ground. And that's why we use certain indicators. These indicators are the atoms of the system that allow us to build something more complex. So the condition of the green infrastructure, it's like a complex compound that is built of particular atoms, that is these indicators. And we do have indicators that talk about the condition of trees, about canopy coverage. We have indicators related to connectivity of trees, etc., etc. So in order to have this common ground, we needed to use a common unit. So we assumed that this will be a hexagon. This is because its surface area is the same and it's easy to use in comparisons, and there are many libraries that actually very efficiently work with hexagons. So that's why we did that. That's why we chose hexagons.
No, ale budując tą cząsteczkę, o której mówiłem, dochodzimy do takiego momentu, że mamy tych już atomów
As we developed what we talked about, it turned out that we have 30 atoms at our disposal, 5 indicators, 5 factors, 30 indicators, and all of them with different varieties. So now we are facing a challenge of selecting the right ones. Which of them provide most information? And which of them inform us the best about the health of green infrastructure? On the left, we can see the isolation of particular layers of greenery in a particular place in Wrocław, how well it is connected to other layers around it. On the right, we can see a matrix of correlation of different indicators. We can see that some of them are correlated and some of them are not. For instance, tree health might not be correlated in some spaces to the number of trees. It might be more correlated to a species. In order to have such a host of information at our disposal, we needed to use some sound foundation, and our foundation is aerial data. In the test field, we analyzed the city of Wrocław. Within the analysis, we flew over the city a dozen of times using hyperspectral cameras, thermal cameras. We also created a point cloud in order to come up with a map of a city. And here I would like to demonstrate to you the results of our work in our map service, Obliviu.
To są nasze obszary testowe we Wrocławiu. Oczywiście
These are the test areas we analyzed. Here we can see an orthophoto map. Here we can see thermal data collected during day. We can see that water is much cooler. We can see how hot the roofs are, as well as the concrete surface. Visualization at night is interesting because we can see how much heat is radiated from the surface. We can see how much heat is radiated from unshaded areas. We can also see a lot of asphalt surface. And here we can see our flag products, which are tree canopies, the map of species of trees.
Zupełnie inną roślinność w obszarze Starego Miasta.
You can see that there is quite different there are different species within the Old Market Square and at the riverbed. We can see the map of tree health, indicating which trees are weakened, where information is urgently required, and where there is nothing to do. And we can also see the map of sealed area, indicating where we can see the most sealed areas. We can compare it to our orthophoto map. We also have a way of differentiating between different roof surfaces. Allow me to get back to my presentation. I wish to tell you about one more important aspect, which is the diagnosis of the health. We can see the diagnostics of a city, and we would like to monitor it after 2 years. In other words, we want to test whether our actions were good or bad. Maybe the decisions were right, but what we did was wrong. So we fly over a city once again, and we compare our products over a period of 2 years. and analyze what has been done over that period of time. This is obviously research and development in progress, but we can already compare tree canopies. We can see where we can see an increasing number of tree canopies where the number of tree canopies is decreasing. And obviously, clerks know perfectly well where a city, where a tree was cut. But on the example of an entire city, we can compare the total biomass of trees and to see whether natural growth and planting compensates the removal of trees resulting from different activities of a city. I wish to finish my presentation with this. I thank you for your attention. Dominic has already mentioned other members of the consortium. We have a great support of the University of Łódź, SIKA, our German partner, as well as GRID, the University of Warsaw, and the municipality of Wrocław in these products. You can contact me anytime. Should you have any questions, I will be very happy to answer all of them. Thank you, Robert. We don't have enough time to summarize your presentation. I hope the audience will forgive me for that. There is one more presentation ahead of us. I would like Daniel to tell us a few words. How this presentation is going to concern how we wish to involve cities in the project. It's going to be how we wish to involve you in dialogue that would allow us to make our solution even better and better adapted to your needs. This is going to be a presentation delivered by Daniel. In our consortium, Daniel represents UNEP GRID-Warszawa, and he's responsible for communication with our stakeholders. Daniel, I'm giving you the floor now. Thank you so much, Łukasz, for giving me the floor. I hope you can hear me well and you can see my presentation. Great, thank you for letting me know. Given that I am running on a limited amount of time, I would like to share with you key information. Over the course of the last presentation, I wish to invite you to cooperate with us in the project. Over the past 2 years, you have learned about the assumptions of LIFECOOLCITY. We familiarized you with the tools available within the project. The previous speakers have told you what is the co-authors, who are the authors of the consortium, idea to improve the functionality of these tools. This is the first stage.
Natomiast tak samo ważny, tak samo istotny w naszej ocenie jest ten kolejny etap prac, a mianowicie
in our opinion, the second stage is equally important, which is consultation and the analysis of the usability of these tools in cooperation with potential users, which are you. All the products developed within LIFECOOLCITY are designed for cities. They are tailored to decision makers, those people who work with blue-green infrastructure, environmentalists and other. It seems only natural that we should take the needs of cities into consideration in the project. In other words, we are interested to know what you would expect of such tools, what kind of data you need. We hope that your contribution will allow us to make these tools as good as they could be and as sufficient as they can be.
W tym celu w ramach projektu planujemy stworzyć właśnie zespół konsultacyjny.
With that purpose in mind, we are planning to establish a consultancy team. To this team, we would like to invite representatives of 20 different cities, both from the country and abroad. Ideally, we would like to form a group of representatives of cities that are diversified in terms of their geophysical properties, demographic, social, economic, and climatic properties. Given how specific the project is and how complex the subject is, we would like to interview people responsible for these fields in their cities. In other words, we would like to get in touch with specialists. Invited to consultation are not only cities. This invitation is also directed to institutions and organizations connected to greenery, NBS, and adaptation, both nation and Europe-wide. In such a dedicated team, we would like to talk about your needs in this aspect. What we would like to talk to you about? First of all, we wish to talk to you about the two tools that we are currently developing. These are Cool City Ranking and Cool City View. We would like to share with you our experience and ideas for these projects, and in turn, we would like to know your opinion. What are your ideas, what suggestions you might have on the substance, as well as the usability and the graphics of these tools, whether you believe it's user-friendly or not. Within cooperation, we'll embrace all suggestions and all feedback for modification, recommendations. Maybe you believe some other parameters could be included in the product. We believe that brainstorming can be only beneficial, and it can increase the value of our tools. You might wonder what's therein for you. We don't wish it to be beneficial for only one party. We do not want to use your ideas for free.
Przede wszystkim w ramach tej współpracy, w ramach tych zespołu konsultacyjnego chcielibyśmy
What we offer in exchange
po pierwsze podzielić się z Państwem wiedzą i
is
doświadczeniem, które
sharing with you our knowledge and experience, as well as to share the conclusions that stem from the synergy of such a huge group. By saying this, I wish to tell you that we are planning to organize a series of training in GIS, remote sensing, how to use GIS tools and remote sensing and monitoring and managing green areas within a city. We also offer training in NBS solutions as well as ecosystem services, such services that can be provided by green or green areas. We assume that members of such trainings would also receive our certificate, confirming they have undergone training. By participating in such consultation, you would be able to increase your knowledge in better management of ecosystems, as well as technical knowledge concerning remote sensing.
Kolejna nasza propozycja to z kolei bezpłatna analiza stanu błękitno-zielonej infrastruktury w mieście,
is a free analysis of the blue and green infrastructure of your city. Every member would have an opportunity to consult us. You would also receive a Cool City View dedicated to your city. It would comprised of an analysis of spatial diversification of your city and its adaptation potential. Given that, we hope you will be more involved in the project because you will have an opportunity to adapt this tool to your needs, to make sure that it consists of all parameters that are critical for your city. In other words, it is everything you might find useful in using such a product that will allow you to increase the adaptation potential of your city. This is not the end. Together with a free Cool City View report, cities participating in consultation would also have an opportunity to buy a Cool City Design report for a very beneficial price. The report uses both aerial and satellite data in indicating the most critical areas for intervention. We also wish to offer you the best solutions based on the nature. There are various advantages to be won because on one hand you can increase your competencies in terms of adaptation to climate change through the training I've been telling you about, with a certificate confirming you have participated in the training. But on the other hand, your cities, the cities that you represent, will gain access to the latest state-of-the-art technologies that support identifying the needs and adaptation potential of cities in terms of managing blue and green infrastructure, as well as monitoring and adapting to climate change.
And a couple of words about the form of cooperation. We know that you might not have a lot of time for these additional activities. That's why we would like to cooperate online in the form of cyclical meetings. These online meetings would take place once a quarter. So throughout this year and during 2025, with the possibility of continuation, of course. So all the dates are going to be negotiated so that everyone will find them appropriate. The assumption is the following. These workshops and these trainings should be interchangeable. So during the first meeting, you will be introduced into the details of the project and the tools. And we'd like to ask you for cooperation, of course. So this first meeting would also give us a possibility of conducting the first cycle of trainings. And at the very end, you will receive certificates of participation. During the second meetings, you would be invited to give your opinion on Cool City Ranking, our first product. And these consultation meetings can be held in the following phase. First, we could present you with certain product assumptions, stages of developing the product, the form of presenting the tool, of presenting the results, effects. Then you will have time to familiarize yourselves with the materials, and after that time, we would ask you for feedback, comments, suggestions, ideas pertaining to this particular product. Then we will analyze the results, and then we can have individual meetings if need be in order to discuss some details pertaining to the results of the consultations. So this is our plan for cooperation under this LIFECOOLCITY project. And on behalf of all the partners, I would like to invite you to participate in these consultations. And in the slide, you can see a QR code that will direct you directly to the form where you can actually sign up. So you can take a picture and you will find a link that will lead you to the website, and we will also give you a link, traditional link, in the chat box. And we would like to ask representatives of cities and representatives of institutions on organizations, also those international ones from abroad, also domestic ones. So we invite you to take part. Thank you very much for your attention, and I would like to give the floor to Łukasz now. Thank you, Daniel. And with this presentation, we are almost finished. Now we were supposed to have a discussion, but unfortunately we do not have time for that, so I apologize for that. I'm the host of the meeting, so I'm responsible, so I'm very, very sorry that we have no time for discussion, but we have noted down all the questions, so we have them all. And I promise you that we are going to answer all of these questions, and we will send you answers via email. So this discussion is going to happen, but in a different form. Please contact us, whether via email or via phone. If you are interested in particular details, we are here for you, and we are open to discussion, to contact from your side. I would like to thank everyone for active comments in the chat box. We've heard a lot of good words pertaining to our vision, and this strengthens us. We know that we are doing something important, and it shows us that our assumptions are correct and they defend themselves. And I hope that they will defend themselves till the very end. And right now, again, I would like to say something that I already said at the beginning. I would like to remind you that the entire LIFE project is possible thanks to the LIFE program financed by the European Commission, and actually co-financed by the European Commission and co-financed by the National Fund for Environmental Protection that supports us in this project. So, thank you for your trust. Our vision that we had, well, it gained your trust, it won your trust, and you gave us a chance to implement this project. I hope we will not disappoint you. These are important questions, and this is reflected by the list of participants in this webinar. So we have cities and individuals, more than 150 people who have participated, and they have stayed with us till the very end. This is really important. So thank you so much for that. And this is our first meeting. This is only the beginning. This is our first step, and we will try to have more of these situations, let's say, where we can talk, where we can discuss certain issues. We'll try to create this space for discussion, and I hope that based on these common conclusions, we'll be able to learn as much as we can. So now I will finish our meeting, and again, I would like to thank everyone for participating. And all the questions that have been asked will be addressed. We will prepare answers, and we will send you the answers via email. So thank you very much again, and have a great Tuesday. Bye-bye.